Wagwan everyone and welcome to Film Shrapnel, your number one spot for everything movies. My name's Tobias, this is my co-anchor and partner in crime, Craig Britton, and today is our second movie in our month of shit movies but are so shit that are somehow good for some people and have a cult following. Bit of a mouthful.
I like how you said some people.
Yeah, not all people. Certainly not Plan 9 from Outer Space from last week. I hated that.
But I know you hated Plan 9 from Outer Space with a passion. And I was kind of okay with it. But this film, Troll 2, I fucking love it. I really like watching this film. It was it's really the epitome of so bad it's good. It's really hilarious.
I think this might be my favourite so bad it's good movie.
Yeah, I'm joining you on that. I really think it might be mine too. So early on, I have to get right into this because I laughed my ass off. At the beginning, there's this guy like Robin Hood kind of character running away from these goblins in the forest. It's so fucking hilarious because the goblins look stupid as shit. He's running away from them. And the music is like this really like 80s sounding action movie shit. And it just looks so dumb.
It's really dumb, really dumb. And the 80s like cheesy music, it's just not good. It's not good at all. The story's being narrated by Grandpa, but then like we find out that it's Ghost Grandpa. It's not. He's not alive. He's been dead for what, 6 months?
And, 6 months.
But his ghost is coming back and like helping the kid Joshua to like fend off the goblins. By the way, Troll 2, there are no trolls; they're goblins.
Yeah, it's really stupid. Only because there was one film called Troll. Yeah. And so they were trying to capitalize off of that by making this is Troll 2, it's like the sequel, even though it's nothing related to it. And
but you know what? I think this film could definitely get a remake, but you'd have to call it Goblin.
Yeah, you'd have to. You can't jump around it anymore. Do you know the origin of this story, by the way? I got a little bit of
Well, I had watched the documentary. And I think the documentary was called The Making of the Best Worst Film or something like that.
I had also watched that many years ago, but I can't remember anything of it.
This is the thing. Yeah, it was so long ago. All I really knew about this film going in, like from memory, was the very famous, they're eating her and then they're going to eat me. Oh my God. Like that I knew. And I knew I was waiting for that watching this film. But like the movie around that very famous bad line is also so bad that it's really fun. I had a blast with this one.
Yeah, I didn't know about that scene, but it was really, I watched it back several times because it just made me laugh so much. But let me tell you something, some random crap will make this film make more sense. If you didn't know. So the script, which was actually originally called Goblins, by the way, which makes sense, was written by the director's wife. And so apparently many of her friends were becoming vegetarians. So it really pissed her off. So she wrote this film about it. Yeah. So that's basically what happened.
But you know what? Right, I actually do have a note here somewhere. Where I actually did feel that this film was about how annoying vegans are.
Yeah.
I actually have this note on my paper. I'm like, yeah, I got that sense that, like, you know, because there's this element of, and they're sort of force feeding you this goo to turn you into the plant stuff. And that there is this sort of, certainly back then, and like sort of in the last sort of 20 years, I don't suppose nowadays actually people aren't sort of pushing vegetarianism so much. Well, maybe they are actually, but certainly when I was growing up, vegetarians would push their, sort of lifestyle on people, and I sort of got that sense from the goblins that they're these like vegetarians, but like really insufferable ones that like insist that you should actually be a vegetarian as well.
Yeah. And like
I
I
mean,
got
I
some other
I was vegetarian for a long, long time, and I wasn't an asshole about it.
plenty of vegetarians I know of are totally cool with other people eating what they
Yeah.
want. Um, but yeah, I got some other stuff as well. I know I'm jumping the gun a lot because there's so much to go through. I got like a lot of notes on this film because I loved it so much. Um, there, do you remember like one of my favorite characters has got to be the store owner guy? Uh, the guy who's like a really who wants to sell them the milk. Basically, that random guy goes in the
Oh
shop,
yeah.
and like I think there's one bit where like he asks for coffee and he like spits or something,
The
gets really
devil's juice.
the devil's juice, or no, maybe he goes eggs, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Bacon. Yeah.
yeah, and so apparently this guy was actually a patient at a mental hospital who got like out for a day to film this trip, and he filmed the whole film in one day. And he said what he did wasn't acting in this film. Apparently, he smoked a lot of weed before going in, and then
Wait,
just went out like that.
they filmed the whole movie in one day.
No, they filmed the parts that he is in
Oh,
was
I
he
see.
did that all in one day. So
I
he
was
got
gonna
a
say,
day trip from the mental hospital, smoked weed, and was in the film. So
cool.
yeah, I found that really hilarious.
That's really fun.
Yeah,
Well, should we do the plot real quick, really quick, because you can do
yeah.
it quickly. Right, we've got a family that for some reason think a good family getaway would be like a village with only 23 inhabitants, and they have to like sort of live off the land a bit, and they're like an exchange program. A family from this community is going to live in their house, they're going to go live in their house, and
Quick thing. Have you ever heard of that happening before? An exchange program for country people and city people. Have you
no,
ever heard of that?
no, I haven't.
No.
Of
Weird.
course not.
Weird.
But then
Continue.
again,
Continue.
it is America though.
Well,
And
America through the eyes of Italian filmmakers.
true. Um, and then so they go to this place, and the girl of the family's boyfriend wants to tag along, and he's going to bring his mates in an RV separately. So they're all going to this village that's called it's called
Nilbog.
Nilbog. Nilbog, right? That's gonna keep that in mind, viewers. That the place is called Nilbog.
There's a
See if you
fucking
can
great
see,
twist related to this name.
see if you can figure it out before we reveal it. But the place is called Nilbog. Anyway, they go in Nilbog, and for some whatever fucking reason, they think this place is a good idea to have a little tourist destination. Anyway, it turns out that they're all goblins, and they're gonna turn you into plant goo so they can eat you because they're actually vegetarian. So it'd be gross to eat you while you're human. They have to turn you into a plant first, which just makes you think, why don't they just eat plants? But okay, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and the dead granddad has been coming back as a ghost and warning the little boy of the family about the goblins.
There's some really great moments with Grandpa in this film.
Yeah.
Like my first impression of him was so at the very beginning when the grandpa is telling the story to little Joshua,
Mm.
and he just has this look of like fucking hate for fucking goblins, and like I'm just immediately like he looks like he's about to say something really racist or something really nuts,
Oh,
like just the way that
yeah.
he's so
I kind of,
angry
I
about
kind of
fucking
want,
goblins.
because I kind of want a prequel to this film where we get to see what the granddad's beef with the goblins were. Like, what was his experience with the goblins that gave him, number one, all this knowledge and insight, and number two, the power to come back from the dead and like fight them.
And there is some really great moments where he comes back to life, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, and
Like,
you just got to get on board with it as well. There's no explanation. It's just, yeah, ghosts can come back and they can have influence. Like that, you can't just walk through them. They'll just pick up an axe and hit you. Like they're just like a
yeah,
normal person, but they're a ghost.
there's no logic at all. There's
No,
even there's one bit that I found really hilarious where, so Joshua's sister, that I can't remember what her name is
no.
looking in the mirror or something, and then Grandpa comes through it and scares the crap out of her. And then everyone's like, there's no ghost or whatever. And then, like, we see Joshua find the ghost again. And he's, I'm
Mm.
sorry, I got the wrong room. Like, I'm still learning how to do this ghost shit. And it's like, why do we need that? It was
It's
so
so dumb.
weird.
It's so
It was
dumb.
very dumb.
I tell
But
you
my,
this though, like as much as it's meant to be a bad film, there's still like elements that I thought were done quite well. Like there's I quite like 1980s horror film, always have, and there are elements of this film that I just like. Sort of, I thought all the teen stuff. I thought the elder daughter was actually quite good. Don't get, not in terms of the performance, but like all of the scenes with the daughter and the boyfriend. That's all very 1980s horror. The hair, the listening to music while working out, the boyfriend climbing through the window and surprising her, all this sort of stuff. Very, very 80s. And I like all of that. It reminds me of like Nightmare on Elm Street and that kind of vibe. Um, Although I will point out though, she's doing not deadlifts. What are they called when you're laying back and doing the weightlifting?
I don't know, but I did put a note that the weights that she's using are way
Oh,
too light for
she,
her.
oh, sorry, that was it. She's benching. She's bench pressing, right?
Yeah.
She's bench pressing, and he sneaks up behind her and surprises her while she's bench pressing. And I can't help but point out just how fucking dangerous that is to, like, come and scare someone who is working with weights. Incredibly dangerous.
That's a health and
Incredibly
safety
dangerous.
fear.
Well, it's not necessarily health. Not so much health and safety. It's more the fact that if you actually love this person, what on earth are you doing? Like, because you're putting their life in danger. If they drop that weight, it's going to hit them in the throat or on the head. Like, it's incredibly dangerous. And she does jump up as if the weights just weren't there. If you see that
Well,
scene, she does just jump up as if they weren't there.
yeah. But those weights, they were not really weights. I don't know what was going on
Hmm.
there.
What did you
So
think
yeah,
of? Can we talk about the actors of the film? Because there's two actors that like I had initial thoughts about, like in the opening. Uh, so the little boy Joshua, I have a note here. I actually don't think he's all that bad, if I'm honest. If I'm perfectly, I've seen child actors give far worse performances in movies that are considered good. So I did not hate the Joshua actor. Usually, child actors are really, the things that, they're usually quite bad in these kinds of movies. I didn't think he was the worst thing in this movie at all.
he's
I
very ugly though. He's a really ugly kid. I'm
weird
sorry, I had
weird
to
looking
say it.
kid, weird looking
Yeah,
kid, like an old man's face. But
yeah.
I actually thought he was a reasonably reasonable actor. I didn't think he was like insufferable like a lot of other children in horror films. But another thing I have to point out: the mum. Now, I've got a note here, a line that she does where she catches the boy speaking to Ghost Grandpa, and she's like explaining to him, Grandpa's been dead for 6 months. And she's like, the line she says, it's something like this. She goes, it's been hard on everyone. Your father's taken it tough. Your sister's taken it tough. And me, his daughter.
Yeah, I
And I'm
remember
like,
that.
oh, it's such terrible, terrible dialogue. Terrible, terrible dialogue. But what I've written about her performance, she's got this expression on her face, and it never seems to change. And I feel like it either looks like she's constantly surprised or botoxed, or she's on cocaine.
Could be both.
I
Bit
think
of
she's
both,
on
huh?
cocaine. Every scene, her eyes are wired, and she is giving it 110%, but it's really bad. I think it's cocaine. I think that
Yeah.
explains her performance, cocaine. So, can we?
But
Is
did
it possible to look that up? Was she on
I can look
cocaine?
into it. But speaking also of the lines, by the way, so that apparently the Italian guys who wrote it wouldn't let people like improvise and make it more normal sounding. And there is one line that I keep thinking about at the beginning, again with the grandpa uh, talking to the grandson. Uh, he's like, the grandson corrects the grandpa on something like, "You said they can. You should have said they could." And like, it was like, what? Why did you? That was really fucking weird.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
There's some really odd lines. There's one bit where, like, one of the lads says to his friend, "Are you trying to turn?" No, no. Says to the girl, "Are you trying to turn me into a homo?" And I'm like,
yeah,
I felt like there was nothing in the line before that had any sort of bearing on that line at all. Like, why did? Yeah, I don't know. There's some really odd dialogue that just sort of seemed to be
very
there for
odd.
the sake
Yeah,
of being there.
but I was expecting it to be worse. I was expecting it to be worse. What did you think of?
Yeah, I was as well.
What did you think of Credence Leonore Gilgood, our
Uh,
kind of
I loved her.
witch troll queen?
I loved the Goblin Queen. I thought she was great, hammy as fuck, quite quite scarily beautiful, absolute nuthead, like absolute. She's probably on cocaine as well when she made this. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, no, she's utterly nuts, and I fucking loved her. I thought she's definitely the best performance in the film, like without any question. Is it a good performance though?
not really,
No,
but it's memorable.
it's a memorable performance. It's very over the top. It's a very hammy performance. But you know what? I can't see when we watch this film. I can't help but feel that the people who are making this film are also a little bit in on the joke. I think they know they're making a bad movie.
I don't know. Like that
I do,
apparently
man.
the
There's a couple of bits where they're like eye rolling in the middle of a really tense scene. Like there's a bit where you've got the one lad with the glasses who becomes like the plant creature in the big plant pot. And he's like, "Oh, get me out of here." He's like, "How?" And he's like, "Just drag the pot." So he
yeah, that looked
starts
really
drag
stupid.
yeah, he starts dragging the pot across the floor. It looks dumb as fuck. And this lad, even though he's like been hybridized into a plant, like part tree and everything, he still has the time to just eye roll. It's like, oh, this guy. I'm like, there's no way you didn't know that that was going to be funny. You can't.
I,
I'm sure you'd have to be. You'd have to. There's got to be something clinically wrong with you if you, for a second, thought that this was not funny.
and it's actually, now you mention it, there was one bit. So our kid Joshua is like, goes into some abandoned building. No, well, it's not abandoned actually. Like, there's all the troll people, but they're not actually trolls. The goblins, but they're not actually dressed as. I don't know what's happening there, because it's all supposed to be goblins, but they're looking like people. But they're having a meeting and they're talking about how vegetables are horrible. No, sorry, meat is horrible, and they should eat vegetables. And so you see like the kid looking down at all these people, and I swear to God that one of the characters was laughing his ass off, like in the background
Yeah.
at the stuff that they were saying in this film. I think it was like the police officer or something. You can see him laughing.
Yeah,
So maybe, yeah, maybe
I'm
some of them did
sure.
realize.
I'm sure they all knew that this was a piece of shit. But you know what? It really is a fun piece of shit. Like there's a bit where they're in the car and they're just like having like a big argument, and the daughter's like shouting or something with the dad. And so the mum turns around, she just goes, Josh, sing that song that I like. Just sing that song. And he's like, row, row, row your boat. And you're like, hang on, that's the song that you like, that you can't remember the name of as well. Oh, what's that song that I like when you sing? What, row, row your boat? You know the name of this song. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, they just know. They've got to know. They've got to know how dumb this is.
I don't know, because some of them, a lot of them weren't actors, and they were just like random people they
I've got,
found. Like,
I've got to ask you this though. Did you know the bit in the back of the car where
mm,
Joshua has the dream that like that all the family are goblins and that he's turning into the plant goo? I thought that was done quite well. If I thought the costumes of the goblins weren't so shit, and like the oozing green stuff from the head, uh, if it weren't for how like bad they look, I actually thought that scene was very successful in being quite visceral. It's a shame it was a dream sequence. It was one of the better scares of the film.
oh yeah, as a kind of scare, I guess. And yeah, if the costumes weren't completely stupid, I mean,
Mm,
they're like what really gives them away, like, so apart from like, I'm thinking two things: the mouths, even like when they're talking and they're just kind of like
yeah,
moving really terribly, but the eyes look so crap. Like,
yeah, they
why
look shit.
why didn't they just make holes or something, like just these
Oh, I
kind of
don't know.
painted eyes on the mask? They look really really terrible.
I
And
know.
like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would say the creature effects are really bad. Yeah, I always say practical effects are the better effects, but it's only that case if they are good, if they're done well, if they're handled well. You know, if you look at this, you will find examples of practical effects that are so bad that you'd be dying for a bit of computer effects just to sort of break it up for you a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
I was going to
Can we
say the. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say about when they arrive in Nilbog. So,
But
uh,
before we get to Nilbog, can I just do one thing that made me laugh?
go on, go on.
That they're in the car on the way to Nilbog, and the little boy sees the ghost of the grandpa. So he says he needs to pee. He gets out the car and he goes to speak to grandpa, who gives him like a warning, like "Don't go to Nilbog. You shouldn't go there. That's where the goblins are." And then it turns out he's actually just talking to some dirty hitchhiker, and then like they're like, okay, we have to go, and they just leave this guy. He's like, you're gonna pick me up or what? And none of them hit eye contact with him. They all just looked down and shamefully closed the door of the car, like, no, we're not picking you up. And I kind of like that because it felt kind of realistic. That it felt, in the same way. No, I do. I feel that way. Like you accidentally imply to someone that you're going to help him out, and you just have to, sort of embarrassingly say, actually, no, I don't want to help
But
you at all.
they didn't even say it. They just ignored him and
Yeah,
left.
yeah, they just ignore him, eyes to the floor. They don't even respond to him saying, "You're going to pick me up." They just look to the ground, get him in the car, and close the door. Oh, it's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, that was quite funny. Um, and then, so when they finally get to Nilborg and they find the house they're swapping, the
Mm,
Presence family. By the way, the name of that family confused me at points because they were talking about the presents. I thought, are they talking literally about presents? Oh no, there's a family called the Present family. Anyway, they get there. They have this strange lineup with the family. Like each of like the wife lines up with the wife, the father lines up with the father, the kid with the kid,
mm,
and it's kind of like, I don't know. They look at them really tensely, but the Waits family, I think that's their last name, doesn't seem to really get it. And then we have this really weird scene where they arrive and there's food waiting for them with some green shit on it. Yeah, so Grandpa warns them, don't let them eat the food.
yeah.
And there's so much we can talk about in this scene. So
Oh, yeah.
basically,
I've got notes about this scene.
yeah, Grandpa can snap his fingers and stop time.
Yeah.
And he says, the kid has like 30 seconds to stop them eating, and they're all just still with the food
Well,
in
let,
their hands. You can see,
but let,
by the way, that they're
yeah,
trying really hard to stay still. Like you can see them kind of
exactly.
shaking a little bit.
They are still slightly moving, so like you can tell it's not. They've not been able to do it like with computer effects. It's just okay. We expect you all not to move and just pretend that time has stopped. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
tell. Bless them. But they give it a good go. They give it a good go.
they try. And like my immediate thought is the time has stopped. They're all about to eat the food. Just fucking throw away the food. But
Yeah.
no, this kid gets up on the table, swings out his dick, and pisses on the fucking food, which we don't see obviously, but like fucking what
Yeah,
I just don't get it. Like
I know.
like
So,
that leap of logic.
so yeah, he makes well. Look, he makes sure that they don't eat the food. It's not even like okay, you throw it out of their hand, all right, maybe they'll pick it up, they'll eat it. He's got to make sure that there's no way they'll even have another bite of this shit. Okay, pee all over it,
Yeah.
and then
And
he gets taken upstairs, and then the dad starts fumbling with his belt, and this made me laugh this bit. So then the kid, like, you think he's gonna like take his belt off and give him lashes, and the kid goes, "What are you gonna do, Dad?" And Dad goes, "Well, me, I'm tightening my belt so I don't get hunger pains." And I'm like, "What?"
yeah. And this whole thing, right?
And that line alone is proof to me they knew exactly what they were doing. They know that they're making a comedy with a line like that. That they're setting up. He's going to beat him up
Ah.
with the belt, and then it's like, "What are you going to do?" "Oh, I'm going to tighten my belt another notch so I don't get hunger pains." That's clear. I mean, I feel like that is such an obvious joke.
So you think it's a so because the filmmakers they've kind of said later on that it was always supposed to be a comedy. So do you believe that then?
with a line like that, that feels self-aware. That feels self-aware that they're purposely trying to like do a joke.
Self-aware doesn't necessarily mean that they were trying to make a joke, though. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I believe that. Like, but do you think it's a comedy then,
Yeah.
or do you think this is a horror, or do you
So
think this is?
it's this is a comedy. This is not a horror. I'd show this to children. I don't think this is scary. This is like
Yeah,
a
actually, you probably
Goosebumps
could show
episode.
this to kids. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
it's
kind
like
of like that.
it's like a very long Goosebumps episode. Um, I'll give you another example of why it's definitely intentionally funny. There's a bit right after that bit. There's a bit where we cut to the friends at the RV, and then we see a a woman who's had her clothes torn a little bit, and she's sweating the green shit. She's running through the woods. So he's like, "Hey, ma'am, wait!" And instead of like continuing being like a gentleman and like, "Ma'am, wait up, can I help you?" He chases her through the woods, and she's screaming, and he chases her
Yeah,
and rugby tackles her to the ground.
yeah, that was fucking weird.
Isn't that weird? Even like you're trying to tell me that you're just there to help. Why are you stopping a woman who's clearly running from something that's terrified her? Why are you rugby tackling her to the ground? To what? Just ask her what's wrong. What's the point?
Yeah, it seemed very rapey to me what he did.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so too. Um,
Yeah, and then we get a great line, by the way. So, fine around this time, the goblins catch up with them, and he
yeah,
sees them, and he's not afraid.
because that's the first time the goblins appear for real. We've only seen them in dream sequences up until this point. This is the real
Yeah,
goblins, which are exactly the same goblins from the dreams as well. I would
of
have liked them to
course.
be slightly different.
And he has this line. It's like, "Now listen here, you dwarves," and he
Yeah.
tries to be all serious with it. It's really fucking stupid.
What is it? He calls them dwarves and he threatens them. And you know that they're chasing, there's like a lot more of them than you. They're chasing this girl through the woods. Why are you trying to reason with them, number one? And number two, why are you reasoning them with tough talk? It's just so stupid and idiotic. And then they throw like a bit of wood into his chest, and so then they run to a house, which is clearly a church, but they run to a house, and then that's when we meet the queen of the goblins,
Credence,
Credence, whatever her name is.
who,
And
by the way, has a random piece of Stonehenge in her house, which
yes,
gives her all her powers.
she does have some Stonehenge in her house, and she her introduction line, she goes, "This is my house," and
Yeah,
I quite like that. I just liked her. I like the cut of her jib.
I found her a bit attractive. I don't
Yeah,
know,
so did
in
I.
an odd way.
You know what? I wouldn't have even called it odd. Yeah, I found her very attractive. Um,
Yeah,
there's a bit where she gives them some like drink or something, and then the girl immediately starts freaking out, turning into plant goo because she's probably already had a bit, and the boy is just going, "Why can't I move? She's changing." And then the
he,
goblins arrive to eat the practical effects, and then that's when he goes, "They're eating her, and then they're going to eat me. Oh my god!" Which is
yeah.
easily the best line of the film.
Yeah, it's really funny. That and
Yeah,
that whole time, by the way, when she's freaking out and she's going up the stairs. Which, by the way, why did she go up the stairs? I would have ran out of the building, I guess.
absolutely.
If you watch him, he's looking. The actor looks so not sure what to do with himself at this moment.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know where he should be moving, what he should be looking at, or whatever. He looks really out of
Well,
place.
no, he can't move. Remember?
Well, I think, but for the second before, because he does move a little bit first, and then
Yeah, that's
suddenly
true.
he stops. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know. There was like a few seconds where it's like, what should I be doing right now? You know, just kind of trying not to be in the way, and I don't know.
Mm.
It was a bit odd.
No, yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely everything about this film is odd. Everything.
without a
Um,
doubt.
and then we get the grandpa. We cut to the family again, and the grandpa appears to the sister this time
By accident,
by accident. And then
fucking idiot ghost.
but this is it. She goes and tells the family, and you would have thought that the family would just turn around and be like, "Okay, now we've got two children, and they're both saying the same thing, and we know that the older sister wouldn't be backing up the little brother because he annoys her." So, but instead, the dad says, "Are you still smoking dope, Harley?" Which is another reason
Yeah,
why I think this is
it's really
fun.
stupid.
No, I think they're trying to be funny. I think they're trying to be funny. I really do. There's a bit later that I also think is probably the most damning evidence that they're trying to be funny, but I'll get to it when we get there.
But can
Because
I
we're
ask a
about
question
halfway
though?
through the movie. Yeah, go on.
So, but is Troll, the original Troll movie, a comedy?
No, they're not connected in any way.
I know, but they were trying to like get off the name a little bit, right? To hopefully tap into an audience who might have liked the previous film. So, if the first one was a comedy, then okay, maybe it makes sense to make the second one also a comedy. But like, I have a feeling the first one probably wasn't a comedy.
Dude,
I don't know.
the sense stops at the name. The movie itself has absolutely no relation, and that's the whole point. Like that's the whole point of that bit of trivia. They are not remotely connected by genre, by actor, by writers, by any of the production team, by anything. They are not connected remotely. Plot has nothing to do with it. It's not even goblin. It's not even trolls. They're goblins.
No one says troll at all in the film.
No one says troll once. And then I also wanted to also really quickly just want to point out that when Grandpa Seth appears to Holly, it felt very Brando and Superman to me, like Jarell appearing to Superman. I felt very much so. And then this is about the time. I've got it in my notes here, Craig. We're about 40 minutes in, and I've just realised that Nilbog is goblin backwards. So
Oh,
for,
the
for
twist.
that's the twist. For those of you that were like, "What are they talking about, Nilbog?" Uh, firstly, shame on you, but but yes, um, this is about the time I realised Nilbog was goblin backwards, about the 40-minute mark, and then it was no like literally like 3 or 4 minutes later is when they had the reveal. So I figured it out just before it might have been an actual twist for me. So I was a bit slow. I was a
and
bit slow.
and so I'll give there's some other stuff that happened here. So uh, the reason that reveal happens because Joshua looks in the mirror of a car and sees a
Yeah.
sign of Nilbog backwards and it says Goblin. And the reason they're there is because they drove into town to buy food from the store, and the reason they had no food is because he pissed on the food. Which, by the way, were they just expecting there to just be food ready for them, and like the whole thing, like, uh, now we've got no food because we've been pissed on? Were they expecting there to be food? Like, how else were they
Well,
expecting
yeah.
to
No,
to
I think
live?
that they were expecting that the previous family would have had like stuff in the cupboards and the fridge and stuff because they'd left stuff in there like lying around theirs for the family. So I think they'd assumed that there'd be supplies in the house.
Yeah, but was that
Um,
the only food that they had?
well, it seemed that
Never
way. Yeah,
mind.
it seems that
And
way.
then, yeah, yeah. Oh,
And oh yeah, this is when the little boy sort of stumbles on this weird goblin meeting, and we find out that the present family are still here in Nilbog.
yeah. I think there's also. Do you agree that there was definitely an influence of or what's the name of the film? The Body Snatchers here in this
Yeah,
film.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I got Body Snatcher vibes most
yeah,
definitely.
I did too.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, and then slowly and surely, I can't remember exactly how it happens, but we get to the point where so now I remember. So this is like a kind of misunderstanding with the kid and the father
misunderstanding. They're
and
trying to
this
force
group.
feed him. They're trying to force feed him some like nasty milk shit.
Yeah, and they're trying to yeah they try to make this kind of big party in their house, don't they, to welcome them to Nilbog, and
Yeah, yeah.
things start getting very awkward. And I think now this is one of my favorite moments is when we get Grandpa Seth back again.
With the
So
axe, he rocks up with
yeah,
the axe at this bit. Yeah.
so a goblin jumps out the window, a mirror at Joshua, and then Grandpa Seth manages to save the day with an axe. So yeah, ghosts can touch and move real
Yep.
shit in this film,
Mm-hmm. You just
on
got to
top of
get on
stopping
board with
time.
that. Yeah.
And then like he has two things. He has a fucking they're gonna make like a Molotov cocktail or something,
Yes.
and he has a fire extinguisher. And then it's like they're basically gonna firebomb the house, and it just seems so funny. Like
Yeah.
just so fucking nuts.
But,
The idea
but I
your grandpa appears and you're gonna burn down a house of your
but
grandfather. It's
but
just nuts.
I love how he gives the little boy the Molotov cocktail. He takes the fire extinguisher not to put out the fire. He goes, "I'll cause a distraction with this. You set the fire. You set the fire. I'll cause a distraction." And then the one of the sort of goblin human people, they catch them. Oh yeah, because the humans have four-leaf clover warts, which means that they're a goblin. So like, I
Hmm.
think they may have like mixed in a bit of leprechaun logic in there as well. But they that this guy shows up. He's like, "You can't stop us." He takes the Molotov cocktail and he says, "You'll burn back in hell" or some shit. And then the boy's like to the grandpa, were you really in hell?" And he goes, "No, but I learnt this from someone who did come from there." And he clicks his fingers, and then lightning comes down and sets the Molotov cocktail off, killing the guy and turning him back into a troll, but a dead troll, a dead burnt up troll.
This is one of the most random points in the film.
Very weird.
Uh, yeah, and then so Grandpa also dies, and it's like,
Oh,
okay,
he'll be
not
back.
only What the
He'll be
fuck
back.
did? Yeah, he will be back in a second. He's never dies. Um, what the fuck was that magic shit that he did?
Fuck
And
knows. They never explain it.
never explain it. And then what was even the point of bringing Grandpa back really there?
No
Except
idea.
just it just seemed very strange to me.
The
And
thing
then
is, this is about so this is the point of the movie. I've got a note here, and I like we're about like 3/4 of the way through the film, and the note I've got here is: it just me, or is this movie actually not that bad? I at this point, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. I'm having a good time with this movie. Okay, some of the actors are a bit feckless, but overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like some of the lines in it. There's a bit we skipped. There's one of the lads. He says, "But what about all the beautiful liberated girls?" Oh God,
yeah,
just stupid
that's
shit like this. I just love it. And
yeah, it's
then our sexy goblin queen rocks up again. She's now gotten like Super Saiyan powers from Stonehenge, and now she's not gross to look at all. She is like perfect skin, perfect everything, and she goes and seduces the last lad that's in the RV, right? And she sort of rolls up her skirt, like does like the sort of Mrs. Robinson seduction thing, and then pulls out corn on the cob. And first and foremost, sexy woman in the woods with a corn on a cob. How many red flags do you need in one human being? But never mind. Um, but she starts seducing him, and he goes, "I prefer popcorn." And she goes, "Well, that's okay. All we need to do is heat it up." And then they start like not fucking, but like kind of fucking, but like with this corn on the cob in between them. And they're like eating the corn on the cob all sexily. And then someone from behind the camera is throwing popcorn at them. And this is the scene that I would make. I would use this scene to absolutely 100% categorically determine they are absolutely intentionally making a comedy. It is on purpose. You're throwing popcorn on
mm,
people. You're throwing popcorn on people. There's no way. There's no way you don't know that you're making a joke. There's no way that's not a joke. There's no way. It's got to be a joke. I love this movie. I think it's on purpose.
okay. I'm accepting your points. I don't know if I completely agree, but yeah, I do love that scene as well. That was
Yeah,
so weird. And
I
why
love
did so? I think so. We jumped over a thing there because I think that
it. Go on.
she gets Credence gets something happens to her. She gets kind of defeated for a moment by the family or something, and then she like has to regenerate with Stonehenge. And yet, why did she decide
Oh
like
yeah, because Granddad, so the troll attacks the little boy, and then the ghost Granddad rocks up with the axe, cuts the troll's hand off. But then it turns out that that was actually Credence controlling the troll, so her hand was cut off. So she had to go to the Stonehenge thing to rejuvenate her hand, but she also
yeah?
got extra bit power as well.
So she's extra powerful, and the first
Yeah.
thing that she does is not go back to try and stop the family,
No.
but to go and seduce this
Popcorn
random
sex.
kid, yeah,
Yeah.
left in the trailer, which is very odd, but also gave us a great scene.
Great scene though, yeah. I can't knock the scene. Can't knock the scene. Great fun. Great fun. Dumb as fuck, but really fun.
Yeah,
I do have a note here as well. If you were this boyfriend, right? Like this whole movie, you've been like arguing with the girl about bringing your friends, and then you meet the dad, and the dad's calling you a good for nothing and all this shit. And I just have a note here saying, if I was her boyfriend, I would have regretted not picking my friends first. Because
yeah,
that,
your
cause that's
friend.
the whole thing in it. Like, oh, he never picks her over his friends, and it's like, well, after this, he'll never pick you first again. Like, definitely not. Not a fucking chance.
Yeah, when your girlfriend gets into this
Because
kind of shit.
what a way to meet your future in-laws. Having to fight off like a horde of little goblins that are trying to eat you.
Yeah.
Um, it did so there's a bit where they do like a seance to contact the granddad, then the little boy disappears and becomes a goblin, but then we find out he was like teleported to the house, like to somewhere. Where was he? He was
To the
teleported somewhere.
house.
But this is the thing, like, did they body swap or what happened there? No fucking clue.
See, that's the thing as well that also bugged me a little bit there. Like, wouldn't I would just assume that he turned into a goblin. I wouldn't like.
Yeah,
I think what happened was is that they swapped places, but I would have thought that they, yeah,
I thought he turned into a goblin at
yeah,
first before we see him like in the house. I thought he'd become a goblin, and then they were going to have to deal with
it
another
makes
goblin.
sense.
Like, maybe this is how the
Yeah,
goblins are made, or whatever. I don't know. And then there's a
and
bit
then we
where
get
the goblins come in, and then one of I think it might have been the boyfriend. He says, "Please, let's talk. We're all human here." Idiot.
yeah, and then
I
we're getting pretty
definitely think they
close to
did
the end
this on
now.
purpose. I'm sure it's bad on purpose. I'm sure.
Okay, like,
I'm sure, mate. I am sure.
yeah. And then we're getting pretty close to the end. So once again, our grandpa is back. Little Joshua is in the house, and he's given a bag by his grandpa that
Yeah.
he says you can only use it when you need to or whatever.
I hate.
And they have to do something to Stonehenge. And
Hmm.
it turns out, so the family find him somehow. There's like, we got to find Joshua, and they're still in the house killing goblins. There's really some really odd shit happening there. The goblins jumping around at people, and they get to the house. Somehow they know he's there, and he finally opens the bag, and it's a double bologna sandwich or something stupid like
Yeah.
this,
Double
and he
bologna
bites
sandwich.
it. Yeah, and it just like because it's meat in it, so like
Hmm.
they can't handle it, so they start going crazy, and then they have to like touch the stone, and if
It's the
they keep
power of
saying you have to
goodness.
concentrate, and then like somehow they fucking just yeah they
No, he,
just die
no,
or
he said.
something.
He says, "Don't you understand? Only the power of goodness can defeat him."
Yeah, so
But yeah,
cheesy.
but that's where that's I feel like it's where at first you're like, oh, is this like a funny allegory, a funny allegory for vegetarianism and veganism? And then when you make the thing that defeats them in the end, eating a bologna sandwich, it's just such an obvious rip on vegetarianism. Like, I'm not remotely surprised that you're telling me that is what it's about, because I wrote this as a note. I wrote it as a note that I feel like this whole film is intentionally trying to be an anti-vegetarian film,
Mm,
but not necessarily anti-vegetarianism, anti-vegetarians.
yeah.
Like, I
Sure.
think it's about annoying vegetarians,
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, we know it's right.
and and then
Um,
they get back home after defeating the goblins, and then she had, but they've got a bowl of apples in the fridge, a bowl of apples in the fridge.
the only thing in the fridge, by the way,
The
I think.
only thing in the fridge. Do people keep bowls of fruit in the fridge?
I don't
Surely,
know
if
if
you
I've.
know you're not going to be around, you don't have fresh fruit because you know it will
For,
go bad.
I think they were supposed to go for like a month as well. So you wouldn't
Yeah,
leave apples in the fridge for a month. Doesn't make sense.
weird. Um,
Yeah.
and then, but we find out that the apples are also goblin goo making apples, and the mum turns into goo. Although the mum goo puddle, they keep boobs. It's the first time we see boobs in the goo puddle, and then the movie just sort of ends. Oh yeah, because that's right. The dad that so after defeating the goblins, they're on their way home. The dad says, I'm going to stop by the office. The daughter says, I'm going to go around to my boyfriend's house. So it's like, you've just defeated all these goblins. The dad needs to go back to work, and the daughter wants to go spend some solo time with the boyfriend. Like, don't you think, I would imagine a family would want to just sort of bask in the knowledge that they're alive after a traumatic experience like that. But okay, whatever. And then, yeah, the movie just ends after eating the mum.
It's like
And
they
that's
just
it.
need.
That's the
We need
whole
to get
film.
a moment with them together. Yeah, that's the whole
Yeah.
film.
Call it Goblins. I think we should just call it Goblins.
We should really just call it Goblins.
Yeah.
What do you rate this movie out of a horde of goblins?
Out of a horde, how many goblins are we?
Yeah.
How many goblins? What? It's about like 12 goblins. We only like we don't see more than about 12 at any given time. So should we say a whole goblin horde in this movie is only like a dozen goblins?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Then I'll give it a baker's dozen out of a dozen goblins.
How much is a baker's dozen?
13.
13, eh?
I'll give it
Ooh.
13 out of 12 goblins.
You know what? I'm gonna give it the same. This is a
I
fan.
think
This is.
it's
I don't know
amazing.
if I. I don't know if I agree with you that it was supposed to be a comedy, but it
But,
is
but it does
fucking
tick.
entertaining to watch.
This is the thing. Whether you agree with that or not, it definitely breaks the scale.
And you will laugh when you watch this
I,
film, no doubt.
like I'll use that scale for now. But like, if we only did a 10 out of 10 rating, I'd have given it an 11 out of 10. But
Yeah.
because we can have two ratings, I will give it a baker's dozen out of a dozen goblins. But my IMDb rating, if I just look at it from a filmmaking perspective, if I just look at it as a badly made movie, I mean, you probably couldn't give it more than a 4 out of 10. But my God, it is so much more than that. Like,
Yeah.
I would say the rating, an honest rating of this film, where you're looking at the direction, the acting, the story, and all that, it's not a very, it's a misleading, it's misleading data. It's misleading data because it's all of that awfulness that makes the movie so brilliant.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the poster now, and even the poster
Yeah.
looks really shit. The goblins look stupid, and I just see the tagline as well. One was not enough. What does that even mean? I don't get
Well,
that.
maybe the first one was about one troll.
Ah, okay, maybe. But do you want to know the IMDb rating then?
I mean, I'm guessing it's a 4.
You're wrong. It's 2.9.
2.9.
Yeah, it's pretty
2.9.
low. That is lower, by the way, than
Plan 9 from outer space.
which was 3.9, I think.
This is way better than Plan 9 from outer space.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
definitely gonna watch Troll. I even have a note somewhere that I might make it a tradition to watch this once a year because it's so entertaining.
yeah, yeah. No, I especially like this movie. I'd never seen it before, but I knew a lot about it, and I'm so glad I've finally gotten around to watching it because yeah, it's brilliant. I really, really liked it. No regrets for me at all. I regretted Plan 9 from outer space as a selection for the last film we did, but I no regrets watching this one. Loved this one.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's put this
Well, on
one
that,
on to a
yeah,
close.
on that bombshell, thanks everyone for coming out to listen to us. We are Film Shrapnel. Go check us out on Twitter at Film Shrapnel, capital F, capital S. If Spotify ain't your cup of tea, we are on 1,000,001 other platforms. Just look up Film Shrapnel Podcast into Google. I'm sure you'll find us somewhere. Craig, do you have anything to say to the lovely listeners?
Not really, except stay tuned for our last film, which is Battlefield Earth,
Yes, shit
another
movie month.
critically terribly film.
Yes,
Yeah,
shit movie month will conclude with Battlefield Earth, which I'm not looking forward to, but we'll have fun. I'm sure. Let's hope we have
we
fun.
will.
And until next time, guys. Oh my God.
Oh, I should have seen that coming.
Shrapnel!